my current influences, pathways, I guess for me, how I got into music, it's a multitude of, I think it's the same for most people. It's just multitude of lifestyle, childhood, love for music. And initially my brother brought home a Dance 95 CD. I was around 5 or 6, and that was like my first into like electronic music, I guess. And kind of just blossomed from there. Then my dad took me to see Faithless. I was a huge fan of Faithless when I was a kid, well, still am. And I think I was 11 years old, he took me to see them live, and from there it was just like, okay, music is the only way, really.
Oh, give me reasons to feel alive. Yeah, yeah.
How do I get a signature sound? How does anyone get a signature sound? I think it's consistency. I think being able to evolve as an artist, but also be able to like be consistent with how you produce, evolve in your sounds, but also still using certain sounds that kind of give you your signature sound. It takes time. It took me years to get there. And I'm still a long way away from getting there as well. So yeah, it's a process. It's just enjoying it as well at the time.
Give me love tonight, give me hope tonight, give me strength.
I've been so fortunate over the years, like releasing on some of the biggest record labels in the world in electronic music and on major record labels. It's like I've been very fortunate. I think it's sometimes pretty hard to just like sit back and think about it, purely because you're just constantly on to the next thing. So I think although I'm extremely fortunate and very lucky to like get to where I've got to, I'm still a million miles away from where I want to get to. So there's a case of like, it's great to sit back and look at what you've achieved or what I've achieved. But also realizing that this is the beginning of the journey, and you've just got to keep going. Oof. How do I prepare for shows? I honestly don't. For me, most of my sets are 95 to 98% of my own music. So I go in there and with all of my music and just kind of read the crowd and see where we're going. There's certain festivals, like if I'm playing, like this year, say for instance I'm playing Coachella, like I will make a Coachella playlist with all the records I want to play. But then at the end of the day, as a DJ, we're there. DJ producers live like a different roles. Like a producer, for me, when you're producing music, you don't necessarily always think about the audience. But when you're DJing, you're there. Your one job is to think about the audience and is to entertain. So for me, it's like when I turn up to a show, it's working out what is going to be the most entertaining for that crowd. And also, there comes to a point where there's a level of education as well. It's like, okay, well, this new record I've written, maybe they're not going to know it, but I can still test it out and see if it's going to work in a crowd, and that's the level of education where you're kind of educating crowds with new music. But you also have to please the crowds. They're coming. DJing's not how it used to be when we were in dark rooms with no lights and the DJ wasn't the main focus. Now the DJ is the main focus. So if people are coming to pay a lot of money to come and see you, you have to play the records they also want to hear. Yeah, this is the process behind Give Me. It was fun. I was a fan of Burns for a while. Loved his music, loved his production. He does a lot of like producing for other people, Lady Gaga, Calvin Harris, a lot of big things. And after his Talamanca record, I actually did a remix for him that didn't eventually come out, but we ended up getting in the studio, I think 2022, August 2022, we got in the studio together, and we had Dave Gibson, the vocalist on this, the vocals on Give Me. I just was in LA, popped to his studio. Just like, we wanted to make a house record. Just wanted to like make a straight up classic house record that people could like, it kind of gives throwback vibes, but also just makes people feel happy. Makes the dance floor move. That was it really. And then when Armada decided to sign it, I was working with Armada beforehand on like a more long-term deal, and then we played it to them and they absolutely loved it. So we were like, yeah, we found a home there, which was great. And as a label, Armada, their team are amazing there, amazing. Yeah, the Will Clarke podcast. So I started this during COVID, purely because I like having conversations with friends. Like I'm not really into making small talk. I'm into like deep conversations. And for me, as artists, as touring artists, we don't ever really get to have that unless we have like a relationship with that person. But because we're like passing through the night, we see each other at a festival, it's like, hey, how's it going, blah blah blah. You never get the like real deep conversation. And for me, it was just like, how do I have these conversations with friends or with people that I aspire to be, or people that I look up to, or people that I really respect? So it was like a long form conversation plan of like, let's just chat. There's no agenda. I go into every podcast with no agenda, no questions. It's just free flowing conversation really. And yeah, it seems to work. I think people enjoy it because there isn't really long form conversations in electronic music. So I think artists get to be able to speak freely and openly with like no barriers. There's no one saying you have to say this or you have to say that. There's no questions set. And also fans get to know their favorite DJs, producers, artists way more than what they would ever know from what we show people on social media, right? I think we've just released we're over 200 episodes now, and it's a weekly podcast. It's doing well. I really enjoy it. Yeah. There's a bunch of shows. We've literally just announced a tour that will go through until June, and then we're probably going to announce another tour in June. Release-wise, I have a new single coming out in May, on May the 3rd, which will lead after Coachella and then leading into EDC. We have some shows in London. It's busy. We're going to be releasing music pretty much from May every month for the rest of the year. So I'm really excited to be able to like just have as much music as possible out there for the fans to kind of enjoy.